Hey there, van enthusiasts, and a warm welcome back to our channel.
Where today we're bringing you some fresh content, which is how to find the perfect Volkswagen Transporter for you.
So if you're in the market for a versatile, stylish, Germanic, Mactim Hanover van, then you're in the right place.
So comment, like, subscribe, do all those lovely things for us. It really helps the channel. Thank you very much. And let's drop into it. So first things first, you really need to think about what you're going to use this van for. For example,
Is it daily commuting? Do you have a business?
maybe you want it for camping or for getting away.
Or is it just for general van life? How many passengers will you be transporting?
Perhaps there's some specific needs that you need from your van, such as certain equipment or specifications that are going to help you with your day-to-day.
Also, you need to consider what your budget will be. And remember, that budget's going to have to include maintenance and service. Take some time and consider those points we've mentioned and jot them down and then fulfill your criteria.
That's really going to help you when you start looking for your first vehicle. Okay, let's come on to the next point, which is choosing the right model. Okay, lots of different models of the Transporter.
T28
So you've got T28, T30,
and T35.
T32.
Oh, 32. Okay.
Yes, and that is 2.8 tons, 3 tons, and 3.2 tons. We also missed out T26. That's because they're not that common, which is 2.6. If you're making a camper van, you probably don't want a 2.6. Okay, so there is the confusing factor of T26, T28, T30, T32, and then you've also got another T number to take into account, which is T5.1, T6, T6.1. So that is the 4 different iterations of this body of van. Then, as Chandrin said, you've got...
You have the Caravelle, which is the people carrier version, but a very plush one. But if your budget doesn't extend so far, you could get the shuttle bus, which is also a transporter, but with basically seats, but not so plush.
And then more of a bus than a minibus.
Yes, more of a bus than a minibus, yes. And also you have the Caravelle, which is the spiritual successor to the early camper vans.
Okay, and then you've also got at the other end of the scale the panel van, which is panel van, i.e. it's panelled, it has no glass apart from the obvious at the front. And then you also have a combi or van with windows, which tends to have a second row of seats as well. So there's quite a few variations there. You've also then started to talk about sliding doors, whether it's a single slider, double slider, tailgates, that kind of thing. Anyway, moving on. So let's dive down into the T5, T5.1 and so on. So a T5 is the earliest model of this body shape. This is a T5 here. We know them as the pre-facelift. And although you can, as with this one, get air conditioning, that's quite rare. And the basic equipment tends to be at a lower level because they're old now. Then you've got the 5.1, slightly improved, slightly different face on it. The headlights look a bit more modern and your dash has been very, very slightly updated. It also moves the engine from a 1.9 TDI as the staple, or 1.9 or 2.5, into everything being a 2 litre.
Or 2 litre bi-turbo.
Absolutely. So, but they're all iterations of the 2 litre TDI.
Yes, they're all based on that 1968cc lump.
Okay. Then moving on from the T5.1, you've got T6, which is slightly different to spot. Actually looks very similar to a 5.1. The main difference is this line on the headlight. So on a T6, you'll find it swoops up. On a T5, you find it cuts off flat. So that's how to tell the difference. Quite often you'll see listings for T6 and it's actually a T5.1 and vice versa. But the headlight is the giveaway, unless it's had a facelift.
Unless it's had a facelift, yes.
Also in the T6, you will find that the dash has all been updated. So the T6 feels much more modern inside than a T5.1. Also in the T6, is there anything else that I need to think about engine-wise? Again, we're on 2 litre for everything.
Everything's generic engine-wise. It's just the emission standards become stricter over the years. And
oh, there are a couple of variations in this there as well.
Yeah, they've included DPFs and etc.
There's also the TSIs.
Yes.
Quite rare turbo petrol engine ones that don't come up very often. If you do find one, thank your lucky stars, but they're normally quite pricey and quite rare.
Yeah. But there is a video of one going across the Great Wall of China because the Chinese market loves a TSI powered transporter.
I actually love a TSI powered transporter and would love to have one day. So if anyone's selling one at any point, give me a shout. I might put an offer in on it.
Oh, we forgot to mention, going back to the T5, there was a VR6 version.
T4. Oh, was there a...
Yes.
Oh, that's very rare then. So Chandra is the man when it comes to the information on these very obscure models that we don't see very often, but that's because he's like the encyclopedia Volkswagen.
It's because Volkswagen are quirky. They'll do some things and then make them quirky.
And finally, we've got the T6.1. The T6.1 has, again, an updated dash inside, all of the mod cons in the T6.1, and that's the most modern shape that you can find at the moment. Way to spot them, they have a little antenna just above the rear view mirror, or where the rear view mirror would be, and it's like a little pod that sits on top of the roof.
Where the windscreen meets the beginning of the roof. Just further up.
And I believe that is for the SOS system on there, isn't it?
That's right.
Okay, so they're the different models of the transporter from T5 through to T6.1.
So you've considered all the points we've raised before, and hopefully by now you've narrowed down your choice of Volkswagen Transporter.
So just to check that off, that should be, you should know what model you're after, you should know what your budget is, and you should know any specific spec that you need for it to be the right transporter for you.
Yeah, so basically, don't try and get a T26 when you're trying to make it into a camper, because you're going to be lugging around a lot of equipment.
Also think about that at the other end of the spectrum, where you've got T32, which actually requires a different class of MOT if it hasn't got rear seats or didn't come as a factory multi-purpose vehicle, which means it requires a set of seats in the rear, and it also requires glass in the back doors to be able to qualify for the standard MOT. So one to watch out for there as well. There'll be more videos about modifying and the difference between T32s and others. Okay, you've worked out what you want. What next? Then you need to decide whether you're going to buy used or new, and you're going to do a different set of things for each of those, and also there's a lot in common. So where should we start?
So hopefully now you've identified a van or type of van that you want.
What's your first step, Chandrin?
First step is check the market out. You don't have to leave your house. Best thing to do is check out Auto Trader, see what prices or pricings your particular Volkswagen Transporter is.
So I prefer eBay myself.
Well, you can go on eBay.
I tend to find there's more choice. There are a few more scams though, so we'll perhaps do another video
about you.
Yeah, keep your wits about you is good advice, definitely. There's an awful lot of choice on eBay, and whipping out the stuff that is right for you, something different. So, okay, do a bit of research. What kind of things would you be looking for when you're filtering or when you're doing a search, James?
So, cast your mind back to when you bought your car. You did some service history research, MOT. You could get quotes on insurance, and obviously certain insurance companies will want to know every single detail if you're going to make it into a camper.
It's an interesting point actually when it comes to insurance for a transporter, because if you intend on modifying or converting your van and you buy it just as a panel van, if you're not with the right insurance company, you may find that you get midterm through your insurance and they will either no longer insure you, which is a problem, or your premium may rocket. So,
did not disclose.
If you plan on changing it, there's a couple of companies out there that specialize in insurance for transporters. And if you guys are watching now, maybe you'd like to get in touch, because we could do with some sponsors. And what else, Chandler?
Well, hopefully after you've done your browsing, you've identified a vehicle or two, time to pay them a visit. Have a look, inspect them. Don't just kick tires.
No, it's just not good enough.
No, you need to be a bit more thorough than that.
Okay, so on your first visit to go and see a vehicle, so right. Okay, so when you're filtering on eBay, there's a few tips and tricks that.
Sorry, sir.
Okay, so when you're doing your filtering, before you go and see stuff, it's a good idea to have some definite checks in place first. You need to know that the vehicle's got service history before you go out to see it. I wouldn't recommend buying anything that doesn't have a full service history, although some will have a patchy history. Your choice. I wouldn't. What else can you do when you're looking? You can also do an HPI check. So if you're particularly interested in a vehicle, particularly if it's something a bit newer, you might want to check if there's any outstanding finance or if it's got any damage history. Also check the photos really, really carefully. It's so easy to look at the photos, fall in love with the vehicle, and when you go and see it, you don't see anything except what you saw in the photos. So you need to inspect those photos carefully. Try not to fall in love. Do not become emotionally involved with the vehicle before you've even seen it.
Yeah.
That is just, it's a nightmare. Don't do it.
Don't let your heart rule your head, basically.
Absolutely right. So with that in mind, you should be able to go and look at something with open eyes. And if you're not sure that you haven't already fallen in love, take someone else with you who will look at it from a buying perspective and try and look after your interests.
And money.
And money. And pain and heartache.
Yes. So you've identified the vehicle, you've gone to see it, take it for a test drive.
Okay.
Because you're going to part with a lot of money.
So if you're going to a dealership, you're not going to expect to find anything wrong with it.
Not necessarily, which is why take your time on the test drive. Even if it means moving out the forecourt down the road, pulling over and just having a general look. Things you couldn't or wouldn't have felt comfortable doing at the dealership, open the bonnet up.
Okay, that is something that's really, really important actually. And I find that particularly on private sales is how long is acceptable for you to check out the vehicle? Because you always feel a little bit guilty, like you're taking up someone's time and you don't want to waste their time. However, is that fair on you if you're parting with a lot of money? Well, what's reasonable?
I think if you're going to particularly a private buyer, use your intuition. Are these guys you're buying from trustworthy? Car sales in this country are predominantly very seedy transactions. So take your time. It's your money. You've travelled to see the vehicle. Explain to them, I want to give it a thorough inspection, and take your time. And if they let you, take your time, do your inspection, and you might handshake on it later. But please do take your time. And what I said earlier, don't get carried away.
You should also never feel pressured. So it's very, very likely that you've had to go quite a distance to find the right transporter because they move very, very quickly in this market. There are more people that want them than there are available. And that is why there is quite a lot of vehicles out there that you perhaps wouldn't buy. But don't feel like you have to move on it just because it's there. It's very, very easy to fall into that trap. Something else will come along if you can't make it to that one.
Indeed, there's plenty of fish in the sea, so they say. Another note is if you're going to a main Volkswagen commercial vehicle retailer, they have particular checks in place. Yes, you'll be buying at a premium at the higher end of the used market, but should anything go wrong, you are covered.
So from there, you should be, if you aren't already under the manufacturer's warranty, you should be able to extend the manufacturer's warranty.
Correct. Yeah. So if you're buying a used approved Volkswagen transporter from a franchise Volkswagen transporter retailer, they will have things like money back guarantee 1 month, but they also will provide you with extended warranty if the vehicle's just coming to the end of the three years manufacturer's warranty.
Absolutely. Now, that's going through a main dealer, and you should feel fairly safe going through a main dealer.
You should be. However,
there's always going to be exceptions, but just keep your wits about you. Make sure that any noises or anything like that you hear, anything you're not sure about after you've driven away, take it back. Make a note of it, drop it on an email, keep everything in writing, and that way you're always going to be assured of the best service. Let's hit the used market. So if you're going to buy used is a bit more tricky to find something really good.
It's a minefield, yes, but if you navigate carefully, you should find something coming on the market that fulfills all your needs.
let me give you some tips on what I've learned from going to look for vehicles on the used market. Okay, first thing, drop them some questions. So whether it be an Auto Trader ad or an eBay ad, put some questions into them first. Even if they've already specified it in the ad, work out who you're dealing with, because you want to be dealing with someone decent, ideally. Doesn't always happen, but that's what you're hoping for. So if you ask them some simple questions, hopefully they can come back to you and be helpful and friendly. If they're not, think about whether you want to do a transaction with them. It's a lot of money at stake. Perhaps ask them some questions, some detailed questions about the service history, where it's been serviced, who by, when was it last serviced. You should also perhaps ask them about, has it had any of the common faults? There are common faults on these vehicles. Again, a reasonable seller, I would hope, would talk you through those common problems and whether any of them have occurred and what they've done to resolve them. However, if someone said it's the best van in the world and it's never let them down, I would perhaps start to have the spidey sense going on.
Yeah, take it with a pinch of salt.
Absolutely. So that's the first part of it. The next thing is, if you want to go and view that vehicle privately, have a look at where it is. Google Maps, Street View, go and find out where it is. There's some places you're going to feel very comfortable going and looking at a vehicle. There'll be other places where you won't feel as comfortable. If that's the case, don't go. Or perhaps ask them if you can meet somewhere else. But use Google Maps, it's there to be used.
Yeah.
Okay. Also consider how far you're prepared to travel. If the vehicle that you like the look of is 200 miles away, it's very likely, extremely likely, that you've made a buying decision before you've turned the key to set off on that journey.
Correct.
Which means it's going to be very, 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 very difficult to say no when you get to the other end.
Yes.
How would you overcome that?
I would ring them up, do some checks, get them to fire some photos via email or WhatsApp. Try and get as much information from the buyer as possible, because you are, if you don't buy it, not doing a 200-mile journey, you're doing a 400-mile journey.
It's very true, and it's your time as well at the end of the day. You could have been looking at other vehicles for sale if you missed that time travelling. Very good point that you make there about asking the owner to walk around, take some photos and things like that. Perhaps ask them for a walk around video.
Yeah.
Maybe ask them for a WhatsApp video call, because then you can actually ask them questions as they're looking at stuff.
Correct.
And that's a really, really good way to get close-ups and things like that. If you want to see something in a little more detail, you can ask them to take the camera right into it. If they don't, you make your own mind up.
And it's your choice at the end of the day. Are you willing to go to the nth degree to get the vehicle of your choice, of your dreams?
I think leaving you with a takeaway there, it would be, do your research first. Know what you're looking for before you start, because otherwise you're going to be looking through hundreds of them. Make sure that you actually ask the seller, whoever it may be, all the questions that you want answering before you set off on your journey. It is an idea to go and see 2 or 3 of them, even if you found one that you really like, because it's worth driving all of them just to find out if there's any differences between them. There are some other things that we're going to cover in other videos that we come on to, but we hope that's been of use to you.
Just want to add, I went to see a vehicle in Belfast, but en route to Belfast, I went to Scotland to see a similar vehicle and went to Belfast. So